Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending on where you are watching this or when you are watching this. We have the coach of Maryland Eastern Shore, Mr. Cleo Hill Jr. here with us today. We're going to talk about some of the things that have propelled him to be one of the premier turnaround teams. We'll talk about his time at the school over the first 2 years. Coach, has been a really good season for you guys early on. I know it's kind of early to kind of pat yourself on the back, but a good season. And I know you come from a winning background, CIA championships at Winston-Salem State, Shaw University. Like even prior to that, you just come from a winning background. So I just want to thank you for your time. I know it's a busy time with all the delays and schedule pushback. So I want to thank you for your time and congrats on your early success. And I just thank you for being here with me today.
No, thanks a lot, Delante. It's been a pleasure doing a couple of podcasts and interviews over the last week or so. So I'm ready to go. Let's
Yeah,
jump into it.
yeah, and I appreciate it again. Like I said, I know it's a busy time, especially with all the cancellations that have been going on. So we'll get right into it, and I'll preface my first question with this. So preview. So I generally follow closely with the HBCUs, with the MEAC, the SWAC, and then the two that are in the CAA. And so I wrote previews on all these schools and the conferences. And in one of my sections, I put that you guys were kind of like a stock, like a buy low stock. And if anybody wanted to buy low on a school, HBCU, that could probably pay off, 5, 6x, I thought that your team was kind of equipped to do that. And I said that because of your winning pedigree, but I liked some of the things that you were doing with the roster. And I thought early on, the first year was kind of, up in the air. I heard you on the interview saying that you were kind of making this schedule and your staff wasn't there. So now with the full year behind you, I mean, you started MEAC play last year, 0-10, entering conference play this year on a 7-game losing streak. And now to be undefeated and see some of that turnaround, like what are some factors that you thought have been critical in the year two turnaround?
Well, like you said, it is early. 4-0 is a good start, but there's a lot of basketball to be played, and the conference is really tough, especially trying to win on the road. But I think right where you started at with getting the job late in the summer and not having my staff here and really recruiting by telephone. I wasn't able to have any official visits because I wasn't here yet. I didn't really move down until August 1st. And my staff followed me about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that. And Coach Hurd actually started a month after that. So it was a rush time for me just coming in the door. But I think getting the staff that I got, Coach Beckwith coming with me from Winston-Salem State, and Coach Ellis coming with me from training NBA players, and then Coach Hurd having some Division I experience. I thought that would be the staff that would kind of help myself and the program. And then, the vice president of athletics, Tara Owens, she had the belief in myself and my staff to kind of turn this thing around. Um, she made a lot of promises coming in the door, and she's made good on all of them. So I think that those things, bringing in the new team, I thought everybody just being in place and having a year under our belt as a staff, I thought it's been good for us.
Yeah, and I thought I heard you say about about the staff and all of the people that are around you that kind of help. Now I know that kind of eased some of the
Oh, definitely.
because essentially, I mean, now with all the things that are going on, NIL, transfer portal, and all this, it's really big to have that kind of support, especially from an HBCU, which obviously the funding is not as big as some of these other schools. So I think credit to your staff and all of the people around you for doing that, and I think that has been a direct success on easing your like taking some stuff off of your plate where you're able to just focus on the team and to coach. So yeah, that's a credit to your staff, and I think that going forward, like that should be kind of the model that kind of all HBCUs go for. And obviously you're competing against them, but I'm just looking at it from a broader landscape, and that's something that
Hmm.
all HBCUs, whether that's leadership from the top to the bottom, should be able to connect with one another, because I think that's what we need as far as the promotion of HBCU basketball.
Agreed. Agreed. Definitely. Administration is so important. I think for me, especially talking to Vice President Owens during the interview process, she had a lot of plans. Like she wanted to redo all the locker rooms. She wanted to redo the weight room. Um, she's she did the softball field first, and now she's working on the baseball field. Um, I just think that helped with the recruiting.
Right.
The players that came in this year, they came on official visits, and I think we do a great job with official visits. But having an upgrade on facility, I think really helped. And we also started, and again, something that she talked about in the interview, uh, revenue share, and paying the basketball players. So we're doing that now. We're paying them through rev share, and we're right there, this close to doing a lot of stuff with NIL. So these players are happy right now. They're happy. They're playing hard. They're being good students first, and then athletes. So it's been good with this group.
Yeah, winning always helps that for sure.
Definitely,
That's the
definitely.
part, yeah. So yeah, just to follow up, we talk about your team. Something I noticed, was the tempo kind of being slowed down from the
Mhm.
non-conference to the conference play. Was that something done kind of like by design, or was it something that was kind of, is it something that's opponent based, or like, do you see your team as one of the teams who are, who needs to play slower, or is it just based on opponent play? Because in the conference, like it's a higher tempo conference, and it's the top 10 conference in America as far as tempo, and your team is the only team on the outside of the top 225 in adjusted tempo. So do you think like that different of style? I know it's a kind of a longer question, but like, do you think that different of style like kind of helps your team or helped your team in the early parts of the season? Because all these other teams are used to going up and down, and your team slows the ball. You methodically break down teams, and I thought that was a big key in the early success. But I was wanted to know your opinion on that.
Well, traditionally, I like to play fast. But the huge thing about this basketball team is we're very deep and we're very versatile. So we can play really small. We can play with a big lineup in. So it kind of depends on the opponent that we're playing. I played overseas in Australia, so I kind of like the tempo that they play at. They play from fast to slow, slow to fast. Um, the kind of sets that they run, I've always been partial to that. A lot of Spain action and things of that nature. So we just kind of look at our opponent and just kind of see where our strengths of being versatile can kind of go against what they do, offensively and defensively. So that's kind of been what we've looked at. And to answer your question, it's kind of opponent based.
Okay, and you touched on something that'll hit on my next question. Actually, the depth of your team and defense. That's kind of what it's built on. I think those are the two things that I mostly associate the early success with from what I've seen. So your team has held every conference opponent to under 70 points or 70 points or under. And I think when people hear 70, they think it's a lot. But in today's game, with the pace that is played, with all the threes that are shot, and we just talked about the conference being high tempo, like to hold teams to 70 points or fewer, that's like a really big, like that's a really tall task. And your team has done
Yeah,
it for every conference opponent. I mean, you're ranked first in the conference in all of the key metrics as far as, like whether that's, defensive efficiency, effective field goal percentage, like all of these key metrics are, kind of the things that I thought that led your team to being so successful early on. So in an offensive driven sport where, kids mostly want to, get up, like you talked about, they want to get up and down, they want to shoot threes, but kind of your team has taken the opposite approach. Like, so how are you able to get your players, and especially new guys? I mean, these are, basically new guys on your team. How are you able to get them to kind of buy into what you want to do on the defensive end, especially being that, most kids, I mean, defense is kind of the secondary thing that kids want to do. School
right.
is obviously the first thing. So how do you get those guys to kind of buy into what you want to do on the defensive side?
Yeah, Delonte, for me, it's kind of roster construction, man. Just kind of, recruiting players that kind of fit your system and what you want to do. I would rather, take some offensive guys and kind of teach them how to play defense as opposed to, you know, taking straight defensive
Yeah,
guys and kind of teach them how to play offense. So that's kind of been it. It's a sell. You got to sell a style and role to your players,
yeah,
and I think for the most part there's some wiggling going around with my guys on roll, but for the most part, they've kind of settled into their role and how each player can kind of help this team be successful. So the roster construction is big and what we look at statistically, and just the DNA of a player that we're recruiting.
Yeah, and I think your background with recruiting Division II players or lower level D1 players who may not get a shot to play, I think that plays a big part in that as well because those guys are, I mean, the hunger that people that students have, I mean that athletes have is kind of like subjective. But I think the guys who are coming from D2, D3, JUCO, they're just a little bit more hungry than those other guys. So like I think your coaching style matches with what I see on the floor, and I think you talked about that with the recruiting with those players. So yeah, that's exactly what I was expecting as well. And I mean, just to follow up on that, I mean the depth, like major strength. You got 5 players averaging 6+ points, 10 who play 14+ minutes. You guys rank top 15 in bench minutes. And again, the bench minutes thing it can be a little bit kind of like weird because you can play a lot of guys, but they're not productive. But I think you
That's
guys
correct.
are playing guys who are productive, as as I said, the 6+ points for 5 players. How do you balance those lineups and who plays with who, or is it more opponent based as well? Because I know the scout is different for each team. So
Mm-hmm.
I know you may have something like, hey, these guys are plus whatever in this situation. So do you go into it with certain lineups that you like, hey, we're going to play this, the first 4 minutes, and then we'll come back to it if we like it? Like, how do you kind of balance that juggling act of all these guys who are having success?
I can't give away all my secrets,
Yeah, yeah, that's true.
Delonte.
That's
I
true.
can't. I
That's,
can't give away
that's true.
all of them, but what I will say, we do look at the metrics a lot. We look at the numbers. We look at what groups naturally kind of benefit each other well, or rather the best. Some guys play better with certain guys. The guards will play better with certain bigs, and vice versa. So we do look at those things, but it has been a challenge because I feel very comfortable playing all 14 guys at different points in the game because they all deserve to play. They practice really hard for the most part. They are listeners. They're attentive to the scout. Um, they're getting better at being students of the game, so they all deserve to play. But a lot of times it comes down to matchups,
Absolutely.
and that's where you'll see us play 10 guys one game, and the next we'll play 14. There's some things that we want to do in terms of wearing certain players down on the opposing end. Um, but for the most part, the depth um, has been good for us, but at the same time, it's been very challenging.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a gift and a curse. This is like it's like a two-edged sword. So, but I mean that's gonna help you later. I think that's gonna help you later on, especially in tournament settings.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we're gonna talk about it here with your schedule, but like in tournament settings where you have to play back-to-back games in the conference tournament, like I think that depth really bodes well for teams like yourself. And speaking of that, along with that with the hot, I mean, with the extended rest, like that's a two-headed sword. That's like a double-edged sword as well. So your last game was 2 weeks ago with the cancellation of Monday's game, and now you're coming up on playing 5 straight on the road, 3 games in 5 days, if I'm not mistaken. How do you get your guys kind of prepared for this stretch? Are you kind of like inserting new things schematically on the extended break, or like how do you balance getting those guys ready outside of keeping them like fresh and rested as well?
Yeah, no, it's been good for us. We've, like you said, we've had a chance to put in a couple of new things offensively and defensively. Had a couple of guys that were banged up that are back healthy now, got some rest. For me, it's really preparation. We'll look at the next game like that we play like Dell State, but then we have Central and South Carolina State right after. So we'll take a look at some similarities between all three. And we've been working on that. I think for me though, Delonte, my staff, man, my staff is not good, man. They're great, man, at what they do. I look at all three of them and where I was at their ages. I thought I was very good at scouting and preparation, but handing the keys over to them it's been good for me to watch their growth and to learn some things from them. They do a great job in preparation for each game, but they do a great job in this extended layoff kind of that we have. They've been great for me, man. So we'll have to see
Yeah.
how the next 5 games go in a short amount of time. But for me, I like it because it's kind of like tournament play. You
Yeah.
kind of they play 2 games. You might have a day off, and then you advance. You get for me. The stretch helps me kind of get in tournament mode because after this 5 game stretch, you have a couple of games at home, then we're right into the conference tournament. So we're looking at it like that in preparation for the conference tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that depth also is a beneficiary of being able to handle those stretches like that and
Mm-hmm.
get back healthy. I'll get you out of here on this one, Coach. I mean, you got 2 big games coming up. Delaware State. I mean, the record might not look good, but they've been competitive early on. I thought
Very.
a couple of bounces could have had their record, switched
Mm-hmm.
around. They'll be a tough team. I know a lot of other people are looking forward to the. I'm looking forward to both games, but I'm really looking forward to that Central game. You coming back to to Central to Durham. I know that's going to be a big one. So got any early thoughts on both of these teams? We can start with Delaware State and we can gradually get to Central. Just what you're looking forward to with the matchup wise from both teams.
Yeah, for me, 2 great coaches, Waterman and Moulton, those 2 great coaches in our league. So preparation will be key. We can't look at North Carolina Central before Delaware State. That's a major no-no to do. So both games, as you said, will be on the road. Um, the atmospheres in both will be high. But we just kind of myself, I'm focused on Delaware State. Um, my coaches have different scouting responsibilities, but Del State is the one in front of us. Coach Waterman is going to have those guys prepared, like you said. They've had some close games, man. I've been watching them over the last probably 2 days. They got great size. They got guards. They kind of shoot the ball kind of like us. Both of us are kind of not 3-point shooting teams, but I like to look at us as making timely threes. That's not something that we'll run to jack up a whole bunch of threes, even though I like to shoot the three when I was a player. But we'll play to our strengths. And we'll have to do that against Delaware State. We'll have to try to play to our strengths and at the same time kind of negate some of the things that they like to do.
Yeah, and I know I said that was the last thing, but I think you said something like about the competitiveness in the conference. I mean, nearly like 45% of the conference games have been decided by 4 points or fewer.
Yeah.
Only one league game, or maybe two, I think now. When I
Mm-hmm.
did my notes, it was one. Only one game was true blowout territory, so that's like 19 plus points.
Yeah.
With that competitiveness, I think your defense is what allows you guys to be so successful, and that travels. Offense, I mean, you're not always going to make shots. You're not always going to be able to get in the flow offensively, but defense travels. And I think that's what is going to, be like foreshadowing to you guys' success or later in the season is that defense and that depth. So how do you like get your guys prepared for the clutch situations, especially on the road? I mean, you got 2 hostile, well, I mean, obviously 5 hostile environments coming up, but these first 2, they're going to be really hostile. And I know Central is going to be, on fire on that Monday afternoon. And then I know your guys will be ready to kind of. They probably won't say it to you, but I know they want to get this one for you. I mean, that's just the thing that they want to do. But first, you got to take care of Delaware State. So how do you get your guys to kind of focus in on the clutch situations, and how are you able to be so good in those situations as you been?
Well, we talk about them a lot. We go over a lot of things. But right now, and I don't want to give away my rotation, but we
Right,
have a lot
right.
of experienced guys that we play late in games, and the atmospheres will be intense. Delaware State and North Carolina Central, but with this particular crew, it hasn't been anything that we haven't seen. Like Nebraska was crazy, and so was Creighton. So was Virginia Tech and Virginia.
Yep.
So I don't think they have nerves like that. I think that we've been very poised in a lot of situations. To my surprise, with 12 new players.
Absolutely, yes.
But again, it's been very cohesive with the players to the coaches and the coaches to the players. It's kind of a lot of communication.
Absolutely.
I want to say especially with the guards, but the wings and the posts, they communicate as well. So we kind of know where we want to go in certain situations, what kind of lineups we like down the stretch of most games. So I think that helps.
Absolutely. Yeah, man, Coach, I appreciate your time. Like I said, I'm a big fan of yours. I have been since you were at Winston.
Thank you.
Got to keep it a little low profile because I'm an Aggie. So, that
Right.
but still, I'm a big fan of yours, man. I wish you and your team as much success. Thank you for taking time out in a busy schedule. And I'll actually see you Monday. I'll be at the game Monday covering the game. And
Okay.
I look forward to seeing you and your team compete. And I wish you and your team as much success and help going forward.
Thanks a lot, man. Delonte, I appreciate it, man. I had fun with you, man. Let's
Absolutely,
do
man.
it again.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate you.